Ladies and gentlemen, this video is sponsored by RNGesus. That's right, the holy deity who exerts power over all video games and any games that deal with random number generators. Whether you have a good or a bad relationship with RNGesus is your personal business, but today I am prepared to offer you a sale of favors with RNGesus, and you can buy it for the low price of free. Simply click that thumbs up button, and as the holy texts describe, RNGesus will bestow upon you luck that will result in nat 20s every time you roll the dice. All of your dreams will come true. Today, I'm going to talk to you about Bismarck, Tier 7 tech tree German battleship in World of Warships Legends. Not exactly a disciple of RNGesus. In fact, I think this ship has fallen somewhat out of favor with him. Bismarck historically may be known for such legendary acts as sinking the pride of the Royal Navy, HMS Hood, but in World of Warships Legends it is known as a battleship with long-range secondaries that can be fun to play around with, and terrible accuracy on the main guns. In fact, I suspect that is the reason a lot of people don't like playing the Bismarck. It's because every time they pull the trigger and send a salvo downrange, they have no idea if that salvo is going to hit where they aimed and dev strike or citadel their target, or if the salvo is just going to go every which way possible, miss the ship in all kinds of spectacular and hilarious ways, or else simply overpenetrate and deal next to no damage. It's a frustrating thing. It certainly can be. And I think that's why a lot of people spend a lot of time and effort speccing accuracy into their battleship commander builds. Because as a class, battleships are the primary subjects of RNGesus. They are the ones that incur his wrath most often. So people try to mitigate that by taking commanders who are always the equivalent of like the William Sims out there. They use Flammable Cannoneer, they use Marksman, and then in their 2 inspiration slots they choose Andrew Cunningham and perhaps Azerlane Scharnhorst, or maybe now that new Italian battleship commander Iachino. And they try to buff the accuracy. And then they go about the game still, getting melted by HE spam or getting blown up by torpedoes. They take early trips back to port, and then they go on the forums to complain that battleships have the worst lot in this game. The meta is so unfriendly to them, they can't accomplish anything at all. They just get chewed up by high explosive, or they get holes blown in them by torpedoes, and this game sucks, etc., etc. No accuracy whatsoever. Well, I can sympathize with that in a way, ladies and gentlemen, but there is a solution to it. It's an easy solution, but it's going to involve a little bit of soul searching on your part if my little rambling diatribe here describes you in any way. You're going to have to give up the Church of RNGesus. You're going to have to stop sacrificing all of your commander skills and inspiration slots for accuracy buffs. Frankly, you're going to have to forget about accuracy altogether, and you're going to have to start thinking much more about positioning. I've said it many times before, but positioning in your battleship has a much bigger effect on your overall impact in the battle than your accuracy on any particular salvo. Because no matter how many accuracy inspirations you spec into your battleship commander, no matter what commander skills you're using to buff your accuracy and try to increase your favor with RNGesus, RNGesus is still going to cast his magical spell over every roll of the dice, and your shells are never going to consistently land where you aim them all the time. So the first step to solving this conundrum for Battleship gameplay is to simply forget about the accuracy and start thinking a lot more about your positioning. What have we done in this game? Well, we spawned on the Alpha flank and we've pushed into the Alpha cap, which on this map has the unique position of being in the center of two gigantic islands that block out the entire rest of the map. So we know the entire enemy team, which is pushed into the center, is behind those islands, and they are shielding us from them. Meanwhile, by a stroke of luck, we've somehow managed to spot the enemy aircraft carrier, USS Lexington, who is 12 kilometers away from us, broadside, for who knows what reason, but we're not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. Of course, our initial salvo against the Lexington was incredibly disappointing with 3 overpens and almost no damage, but here, on our second salvo, RNGesus blesses us with 2 citadels and a dev strike, and the enemy aircraft carrier goes down as the first casualty on the red team, a very unique thing that you certainly don't see every day, and a good thing, considering my team has lost 2 battleships and a destroyer already, because of course they have. But now that the carrier is dispatched, we can return our attention to the center of the map. We see the Alabama continuing his push in the center. We take a shot at him, and it manages to land very well and do 11,000 damage, which is nice. We've now done 69,000 damage, and we're closing back in on the Alpha cap. We see a Bismarck has entered the Alpha cap on the other side of that island there, but the Alabama continues to mostly push toward the center of the map, although he is turning at this point, and we're going to have to reevaluate what we do. We could turn left, and we could go toward the Alabama, the Bismarck, and the enemy Siegfried out there from that direction, but if we do, we'll be in front of all 3 of them, and we'll be a very attractive target. They can all 3 focus us, and probably deal a lot of damage to us. So what are we actually going to do? Well, we've made our decision. We're going to go around this island to the right. Why are we going to do that? Well, the Bismarck in the Alpha cap, he's pointed north, so if he moves, he's going to move forward, and he's probably going to go through the gap between the 2 islands in Alpha, come around the other side, and try to chase us. Meanwhile, the Alabama looks like he was turning in toward the Alpha cap, but what I suspect he's doing is turning in to bow tank us. So if we come around this corner, we're probably not going to see the Bismarck B. He was on low health, he's probably trying to run away, and he knows where we are if he's been paying attention to his map. So we're only going to see the Alabama and the Siegfried. That's what we were betting on, that's what happened. And under ideal circumstances, you probably don't want to aggressively push in with your Bismarck toward an Alabama and a Siegfried, partly because the Siegfried has torpedoes, but also because it has 15-inch guns. And if the Siegfried gets far enough away from the Alabama, then I can't effectively angle my armor against both of them. One of them has a good chance of getting my broadside, and either one can deal a lot of damage with their 15 or 16-inch armor-piercing shells, even if they're probably not going to citadel me because of Bismarck's turtleback. But if they're both so close to each other, practically within 2 grid squares of each other on the map, it means that I can point my bow toward the water between them and effectively have my armor angled toward both of them, at least for a time. They're going to get further away from each other as the Siegfried reverses there, but he's on such low health that he really can't afford to play aggressively. And as the Alabama pushes toward those 2 islands, I suspect he's trying to get behind them to obtain some cover, but he's got to give us broadside in order to get there. We're going to take a shot at that broadside. You can see our guns. They're not doing spectacular things. Despite the fact that Alabama is 4 kilometers away from us, they still can't quite manage to find his citadel. But Siegfried is on perilously low health indeed. I think at this point the threat of torpedoes has passed. He does still have 15-inch guns, which can hurt us, but he's got so little health we feel comfortable in turning broadside. We're going to point more toward the Alabama. It shouldn't take more than 1 more salvo to finish him off, and indeed there he goes as our second kill of the game. Hopefully our secondaries will be able to finish Siegfried, and we can get that lovely coveted skill kill medal, also known as the Close Quarters Expert, and our 3rd kill of the game. Can they do it, secondaries? No, unfortunately they can't. The main guns are going to have to come into play, and once again we see the Bismarck's trademark accuracy. A single overpen, the Siegfried is still floating. Okay, one more salvo out there from one last gun, and that's enough to take out the Siegfried. He goes down as our third kill. We've racked up 128,000 damage done. We've got a capture assist ribbon, and we know the enemy Bismarck, who was running away from us, is likely going to be spotted at any moment. When he is, it's a 1 versus 1 fight. All of this, much more important than our accuracy inspirations. The fact that we drove our battleship down the path we did is the reason we still have a lot of HP, the reason we have 3 kills, and the reason we have so much damage. If we'd just driven straight into the enemy team without a thought of preserving our own HP, then we would have been focused down, most likely, by this Bismarck, this Alabama, the Siegfried. Maybe even we would have been torpedoed by the destroyer. Who knows? So we didn't just push straight in, despite the fact that we do have great armor. The Bismarck does have turtleback armor, as everyone famously knows, and that means if you give broadside to an enemy battleship at close ranges, that enemy battleship isn't really going to be able to citadel you. He might still be able to hit you for 10, 15, 20k in your broadside, but he's not going to citadel you, and often that can mean the difference between life and death. But here's the key to that. You need to preserve your HP in order for that to happen. If I had not spent the beginning of this game sort of slowly flanking into position around the alpha cap, paying attention to the map, seeing where the enemies were, that kind of thing, if I had just gone straight into the action, I would have lost a lot of HP. But my flanking maneuver allowed me to keep most of my HP, which I had at the beginning of the engagement with the Alabama and the Siegfried, and partly because of that, I was able to push very aggressively into them and take them both out, which my team desperately needed, because as you can see, the enemy has flipped all 4 capture circles, and most of my teammates have gone down. It is a 2v2. Me and the friendly aircraft carrier versus an enemy battleship and cruiser. In order to win this game, I'm going to need this aircraft carrier to come through for me. That is one thing that can be said about World of Warships Legends. It is a team experience. You can be as good of a player as you want to be, and you can exert a tremendous amount of impact over the course of a game. But you do need some of your teammates, at least, to exert some impact of your own to help you across the finish line. Otherwise, you might lose. So we're going to have to rely on this Shokaku, and we're going to have to rely on the enemy team making some mistakes. Our goal here is to flip this capture circle if possible. If we don't, we're permanently frozen at 512 points unless we sink something. But of course, if we claim this cap, we'll get 3 ticks of points with every couple of seconds. But there is the enemy Helena, sailing straight into us for no reason whatsoever. He doesn't have to push into us. He doesn't have to try to sink us or deal damage to us at all. He could simply turn around, run away, hide somewhere, and make us chase him and win the game. Even if the Shokaku takes down his teammate, the Roma, he could still win the game simply by hiding, but no, he's going to engage us, and that engagement is, of course, going to mean his demise and our Kraken Unleash. 167,000 damage done now, and at this point, there's not enough time left in the game. Less than 2 minutes on the clock. The Helena did reset us, so we weren't able to flip Alpha, and at this point, well, the last enemy battleship is within a grid square of our carrier, so obviously he can see the carrier. The carrier has no armor. The battleship is a Roma, has big guns. He's probably going to kill the carrier. It's just a matter of time, and it's probably going to happen before the game ends, so we need to try to get to the Roma as quickly as possible so that maybe we can take him out. Unfortunately, spoiler alert, we're not going to do that. The Roma takes out the Shokaku, but aircraft carriers can remain alive even after they die in this game. The Shokaku still has full control over that squadron of torpedo bombers. We can see on the minimap he appears to drop the Roma from one side, fly over the Roma, turn around and he's coming in for one last drop. Will that drop be enough to take out the Roma and win this game for us? I certainly hope so, because if not, it'd be quite demoralizing, to be fair to you. But, well, the Shokaku does. He comes through with 30 seconds left on the clock. We achieve a glorious victory, in no small part thanks to our positioning in the Bismarck and our care in how we took the engagements with the enemy. Ultimately, I think that had a lot more impact and a lot more to do with our place on the leaderboard than the lack of accuracy on our guns. Let me know what you think in the comments. Give the video a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I will see you next time. Goodbye.